and or leaves in the next, let's say within the month, it might make Trump look like the good guy. If he says, okay, you're out of here, I can't, you're too much with this Russia thing, this weed thing, you're out of here. I mean, he might win those, to your point, might be able to garner support from the Democrat side by doing that, by looking like the hero in the situation.
Let me ask this question.
Yeah, we don't know. There's a bigger picture here than we're seeing, guys. That, I think, is my point.
Yeah, and listen, I think, let me try to ask a more focused question. Yesterday, we were operating under, memorandums, Cole memos, a policy that there was that some legal support had come from. You had this McIntosh case where you can make the case that if the person's in state law compliance, blah, 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 they get a hearing, and that's what we were talking about. Someone was talking about, who said that about being used in federal court? Paul, right. So, but that's all based on this progression of the administration, of the U.S. Attorney's Office. And those things now, such as the Cole Memorandum, which is one of the things that was relied upon, there was a sentencing, the Holder Memorandum, which was a policy discretion, but all that stuff in federal court works and it can be used to minimize, and it's meaningful. But unequivocally, yesterday, I don't know, there was a understanding that the federal government was not interested in medical and they were letting it go on legal. Is everyone so confident that today after this announcement,
I just like
nothing's
to say,
changed?
No.
There's no reason to be a little bit concerned that, there's not going to be potential raids here or there, that someone that's going to be investing hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, I'm just wondering.
There will be raids.
Is it that benign?
No, there will be raids as a direct result of this. You're going to have overzealous law enforcement that is going to approach the federal government and say, we want to do X, and they're going to do it. And it's not going to be everybody. It's not going to be the entire country, but there's going to be attorneys
the low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a chilling effect. It's going to be an absolute chilling effect. And the other side of this, too, is I think this might be some of the obvious stuff, Brad, too, with the political side, is that all of these things that were undone today or overturned today were all Obama things. So, these might just be overturned for the sake of them being linked to Obama rather than having any larger meaning.
That's a potential.
And it just so happens that the subject matter is inconvenient to a whole lot of people, and it's politically sort of a problem because of the current acceptability of marijuana. But that could just be it. It could just exist in a vacuum to say, whatever Obama did, I'm undoing. So here it is. Whatever the blowback is, it doesn't matter because I'm undoing it, and it's going to appease my base. So,
and that's right. But you're validating my point to some extent that this is not being orchestrated by some malicious, bitter old buzzard from Alabama. This is all being orchestrated from the Oval Office.
First of all, Trump has been unclear. I think Trump said something about medical one time, if I recall. But Sessions has been unequivocal. He's been adamant and steadfast at talking about it as the worst thing in the world, even medical. He's like one of the people in the 15% who still oppose it. So this is something that would never take place if it wasn't him. Like if it was some other attorney general who didn't have a... I don't know that many people that exist like this.
If Schuette would have got Sessions' job, we would have got the exact same thing from him. If Bill Montgomery from Alabama would have got Sessions' job, we would have got the exact same thing from him.
That is true.
That's the playbook.
Yep.
You know what? I do see this. I see this as more than just. It's there is this picture I see of, it's the pre-60s, military policing world of whatever that's challenged the, I don't want to say the hippies, but the 60s and another side of that. And these are the two competing things. And this kind of memorandum is like a empowerment of the police in that in that world of it's a vote for order, it's a vote for law enforcement, empowering the police more. I don't know. I mean, that's the battle but this, it's a political thing that goes back and forth and divides our country. Matt Abel, what are your thoughts? I mean, is this are we going to see any raids from this, assuming that
well, we might. That scenario certainly is possible if, especially, if people with influence who want a foothold in this business want to get rid of some competitors. That's kind of where I see the real nasty part of this. And we're talking about, as Jim Powers was saying, it might happen to some people and very selective targets. And they're going to select those targets not based on, who's committing violations or, who's the biggest player necessarily, but who do they want to knock out of the marketplace?
Very good. Let me ask you this. What
happened? Would that be in Michigan or nationally, Matt?
Well, both, especially in Michigan, just with, we're just coming into the licensing phase now. So there are some brands in the state, but there will be a whole lot more next year. That's for darn sure. Right. I think it was Paul's theory that that they're going to boom Sessions and then they can blame it all on him and yeah.
It's a
lot of ways to play it.
Let me ask you, looking at the chessboard, Matt. Let me ask you this: the chessboard and the executive branch, the Attorney General's office, the control of the state police, and I'm talking more of an academic discussion here. I was trying to frame it in like a constitutional crisis. California is ripe for it. The day of legalization, Sessions has this policy, and he starts rating what California has just legalized. And, that it's maybe esoteric, but, you got a discussion about seceding from the union or defending these facilities that they've, licensed and whatnot. And put that in Michigan. Is there do you think there's a legal obligation of the, if we get into that situation where the DEA is now rating places that the state has licensed, paid money, taken money for it, they have some legal obligation through the Attorney General to defend or fight off, or is that? Do you think is that just outrageous?
Well, this Attorney General certainly wouldn't do that. If we could elect Dana Nessel, now we might have a fighting chance. Schuette rolled over when the feds wanted to subpoena records instead of fighting it. Again, it depends who's in that position.
The federal waiver in the facilities license application, essentially saying, "Hey, I realize that this is just statewide and it doesn't apply to federal law." Like right. All of those waivers essentially allow the state to say, you realize you're playing with fire.
Matt,
proceed at your own risk.
Matt, speaking of Dana Nessel, do we know of any upcoming events that are?
I talked to her before tonight. She was going to call in and talk about this topic. Yeah, I saw she made a post on her Facebook that was...
That's not my question.
I want to make that comment, though. Her comment was in the same theme of what Matt said, in a very strong talking point, which is that I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do what Bill Schuette didn't do, and I'll fight for the voters' initiative in their desire to want to protect these records or whatever, something like that. But it was certainly something to defend, the patient's right to use medical cannabis, which is something Bill Schuette didn't do. I like the discussion, though, about is that the position? I mean, if I don't know who is it, the Sheriff's Association, the National Sheriff's Association. They claim that they're the last barrier to the federal government.
Yeah.
Whatever all that when they're scared Obama's coming to take everybody's guns, like they're going to be the ones. I don't know, right? What? Come on, someone help me here.
Is that still on?
What's that? Okay, I'm just saying, like that. No, that's when these law enforcement organizations, tell you, they are the defender of the people. And I'm saying that does the state at that point, do they have the authority to do that?
All right, Matt. Do we have any events coming up for Dana Nessel coming up in the next week or two?
Well, thanks for asking, Alan. Yes, in fact, we're going to have a $100 ticket fundraiser for her here at Cannabis Council on Friday, February 9th, which is next month. It's about 4 weeks from now. So save your pennies, everybody, and come out and support Dana Nessel. I know it's not inexpensive, but takes a lot of money to run these political campaigns, and we really need to help her as much as possible. So please save the date, Friday, February 9th. I believe it'll be 7 to 9 p.m., but not sure about the time yet. Cannabis Council.
And the address?
We'll firm that up in a week or so.
And the address? 2930 East Jefferson.
Sorry?
Thank you. The address is 2930 East Jefferson.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Detroit, Michigan.
Very good. We'll see you then.
So let's see.
Okay.
So what are your so what is I mean, do you guys find any humor in the return back to the policy of 1980 and what kind of bad music existed then? It would be considered like the one-hit wonders and what was going on with Nancy Reagan and I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Like what a backwards, outrageous step back, even in a thought process. Like what and such a social issue that's developed. Even Brad, what do you say about that? Even with the federal government not rescheduling, but committing to doing more research, so they could whatever. That's something different than 1980, wasn't it?
Well, I think they have already committed to that. The DEA has issued hundreds of research permits. It's my understanding. So I think you're seeing a move in that direction, Michael, and that's why I'm telling you. I watched Blumenauer repeatedly point to his belief that we are likely to see congressional action to solve this problem. And honestly, I would like to see that. I think that's the best thing for everybody. I mean, you folks were talking about some issues before, like employment and housing and firearms and other issues. That all goes away with some sort of address at the federal level. Cannabis is just so big in so many states now, and I think California could have been the tipping point, honestly. So, and we haven't seen any raid yet. So I'm still, Mr. Optimism until we see the first raid at least.
Matt, did Lara at any point in time, the last whatever hours, or even planning on tomorrow, have a meeting on this topic? Do you think that they're concerned, Lara, in their, or the board putting it on their agenda?
Well, I imagine they're probably talking about it. Bailey's probably applauding it, and but I don't see that this is going to make any difference. The genie is just too far out of the bottle. With California having legal marijuana now, and there's so many states legal and medical. I really think there's no turning back, and it's too bad that so many heads are going to get cracked in the process between now and when they finally get off our backs.
Paul, what about you? Do you feel the same way? You think it's going to be? First of all, do you think Lara was discussing it, and do you think they're going to take any action? And do they need to?
I don't think anything's going to change. I don't think anybody's going to do anything other than talk about it, because, like I said, all the disclaimers are out there. It doesn't really change anything. This isn't new to anybody. I think it'll have a chilling effect, so it'll scare off the people that don't have the guts to proceed or be the first through the door. But I think Brad's right. Perhaps California's a tipping point. Think about the number of people that live in California and the economy that represents. I think this is just one of those measures to put everybody on ice to say, hey, look, it's not legal. It's still a crime, and we're going to put it back at least ideologically at par with all other crimes. But I just, like Matt said, the genie's too far out of the bottle for things to change, especially, I think, regionally. I think you're still going to have, like, big marijuana busts that are deliberate violations of the law, like we've seen in the past. You'll have the guys that say, oh, well, we're a caregiver network of 100 growers, and we all just ship stuff to Arizona. That type of stuff will still be, I think, pursued, but I don't think you'll see any increase or any change. I don't think they're going to be kicking in doors of senior centers where take grandma's bag of weed. But I just think that the people that are the most afraid now are the guys that are the deepest in. All the large scale growers that are all registered and inspected in the bigger states that have millions and millions of dollars at issue if somebody does come in there. Especially with what just happened in Colorado with Sweet Leaf. If their employees are playing fast and loose and selling too much and violating the law, they were lucky to get away with Colorado charges, but in essence, if you're going to just start sacking, everybody on the federal level, it might